Welcome to another episode of Startup Health Now, the weekly show celebrating the healthcare transformers and change makers that are reimagining healthcare. My name is Stephen Krein.
And I'm Unity Stokes.
And on today's episode, we're going to sit down with the CEO and founder of CareLinx, an online caregiver marketplace, and talk about the humbling experience of being an entrepreneur. This is going to be a great episode.
Stick around.
It is the duty of leaders to lead, of the creative to create, of the daring to do. The free world expects leadership of us. Its fate and our fate depends upon our leadership. We are industrious, inventive, restless, with the fires that burn within us. Well, I say that nothing is easy, and the best things are the hardest. And all our troubles, all our immense difficulties, now and in the future, can I say be solved if we have the will, the courage. The future is to those who take it.
Welcome back to Startup Health Now. We're sitting down with healthcare transformer and the CEO and founder of CareLinx, Sherwin Sheik. Thanks for joining us today, Sherwin.
It's a pleasure, as always.
So, we've always been so inspired by your story and why you created CareLinx. For the listeners, could you just start by sharing what is CareLinx and your mission?
Sure. I've been in healthcare for over 15 years. First started off within industry, within biotech and whatnot. So I understand the space pretty well, but what really drove me to wanting to start the company was out of my personal family experience. My sister has multiple sclerosis, and she progressed to the point where she was quadriplegic and blind. And my uncle, who was my father figure growing up, my real dad passed when I was 6, had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And he required 24-hour care 7 days a week. And it was a big eye-opener for me seeing what my mom and aunt were going through when trying to find non-medical in-home care support services for my family. Being in the healthcare investment side, I saw what was going on with cutbacks and reimbursement for skilled nursing, better clinical outcomes, patients getting care within the home, aging baby boomer demographic, and kind of all these things were lining up where you see this big need coming. And then when I just saw how broken and fragmented the process was, it really opened my eyes to the opportunity to start CareLinx. My mom's a PhD molecular biologist. When my sister was discharged from the hospital, she ended up becoming the primary caregiver, just going through so many different agencies and providers. On my aunt's situation, she was unfortunately running like an ICU out of her house. 3 caregivers per day, 7 days a week, and seeing all the trouble that she went through with just shift schedule management, finding the right match, people showing up, not showing up. It really, again, solidified that there's a massive and growing need for in-home care support services. And so what CareLinx is we're a nationwide caregiver marketplace. We now have close to 80,000 providers across the U.S. in the top 50 metros, ranging from CNAs, MAs, LVNs, and RNs.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure you explain what each of those are to the listeners in case they don't know.
CNA, certified nursing assistants, medical assistants, licensed practitioner nurses, and registered nurses. So they're skilled care providers. And then families can easily find caregivers that match their specific needs on multiple dimensions of compatibility. One thing that I really learned early on is even though we're a tech company, we're actually, I like to think of us as a healthcare services company, in that we are taking care of people at some of the most vulnerable states of their life, and we're dealing with people. And we have a platform that takes a very fragmented, antiquated industry and makes it a lot more efficient, where we can find a better match for the family. Every family gets a dedicated advisor that helps listen to what their exact loved one's needs are. And then through our 80,000 providers and growing each month, we find the right match of a provider that meets their specific needs and requirements, be it language, be it cultural, be it skill sets. And then we give all the means to manage the care online, the scheduling, the billing, the invoicing, payroll processing, And consequently, what we see is we've been able to save families on average about 50% relative to going through a traditional brick and mortar agencies. Caregivers are earning higher wages as a result of building their career on CareLinx because there's not a large agency profit taken through the transaction. So what we're seeing is we're helping families find a greater quality match at a lower rate, while the people providing the actual services are getting higher wages.
So how many people are using CareLinx today? How many families?
We help about 1,000 families a month find care.
That's fantastic.
And we have about 80,000 providers on the platform today. We're very conscious of not growing too fast. So we're very, like just example, within the last year, we grew 155% year over year, but we kept marketing completely flat. And the main reason being was we're focusing on optimizing the likelihood of being able to help a family. Mm-hmm. And what we didn't want to do is just throw a bunch of money, attract a lot of families, and not be able to deliver on the service side. And so what we've done is invested a lot in building out algorithms that we can predict if is CareLinx the right platform for the family in the first place. If it's not, what's the best solution for them? And if they are a good candidate for using the platform, then we can most likely serve.
It's interesting. You came out of the financial services industry. Has that informed, or how has that informed you as an entrepreneur? You mentioned you built these algorithms. Has that informed how you're building your business and your technology platform?
Absolutely. I'm more of a quantitative. I look at things from a quantitative approach. Ultimately, again, we're in the care business, but what I need to make sure is that the solution that we're providing helps the right people. And so over the last 3 years, we've been gathering a lot of data on looking at what clients actually used CareLinx, asked them what attracted them to CareLinx, why did they stick with us for so long, or why didn't they use CareLinx?
Are you doing that through survey or through an actual one-on-one discussion?
Both. One-on-one discussions are vastly more valuable than just a survey. So I always like to personally pick up the phone, and now we have a team member that's their sole job is constant feedback of service. And we take that information and to better optimize the process by which families go through the CareLinx process, but then also on the provider side. So building out a marketplace, we actually have two customers. One is a family needing care. The other is the service provider themselves. And we're always looking at trying to figure out what is inhibiting people from connecting on the platform and increasing the likelihood of them using the platform, and always adding more value so that people want to be using the platform in the first place.
And what's your biggest lesson that you've taken away from that interaction?
The biggest lesson is that I'm running a never-ending experiment. And when you talked about, you asked me when I first started, what do you want to describe today? And I said humility or being humble. And it is being in capital markets. If you are wrong, you're out of a job. You get certain shots on goal for investing and making good investment theses and proving that if you're going to do well or not. But working on a startup, you're failing more than you're succeeding. And it is being able to be comfortable with that and trying to find the silver lining in each failure to see what was marginally better. And so what I'm always doing is looking at everything that we're trying. Was there some marginal improvement? And what was that marginal improvement? And more you make these marginal improvements, even though you're not going to hit, some people hit it out of the park right away. Those are the outliers, but it's all about learning from every single experience, every single case, talking to the customer, refining the process, testing, failing, learning, improving.
So what techniques do you use to sort of manage that constant sort of failure that happens on a day-to-day basis. How do you get through that as an entrepreneur and stay positive?
I have to answer selfishly. And that is that my main reason for starting this company isn't to make a ton of money. Like if I was going to do that, I would have stayed in the capital markets world. So for me, it is me looking back at all the families that I have helped. And no matter if CareLinx tomorrow doesn't exist, I can go and confidently hold my head up high and said I helped thousands of families. And so I take each day as how many families can I help today? How many families can the team help tomorrow? How many families are going to help in 2015? And so more than anything else, that's kind of the metric that I look at is you're making a difference. And regardless, I hope CareLinx works and is a viable enterprise in the long run. And
It's going to be.
Well, you're already hitting it out of the park.
Yeah, but it's more on I remind myself of that. And so whenever we get family emails coming in, and it's every day we have families crying on the phone thanking us for helping us through this most vulnerable time, and just seeing the faces of my team members who go, "Oh, I love my job," because they feel like they're doing something impactful. That's what keeps you going.
How much time do you spend helping your team members? So culturally, how think that way as well? Clearly, it's great to say I love my job, but it can't not be a struggle to think about the daily beatdowns or things that you get when you're trying to navigate helping these families. I think it's often overlooked that it's not just about how the entrepreneur feels, but you've got a whole team to keep inspired. How do you do that?
So one thing that when we have a support ticketing system, and whenever I see a constructive comment come through,
said like an entrepreneur.
I'm the first one to jump on it. And I immediately get on the phone with the family and say, I am Sherwin. I'm the CEO of the company. I saw and I immediately tell the team, I got this one. And families are taken back immediately going, wow, this is the CEO of the company calling me? What's going on? But it's in the negatives, the negatives that you actually learn. And so what I've shown my team is that you got to cherish the feedback. And I'm the first to tell the families going, this is my personal story. By no means is CareLinx perfect. I am figuring this out. I'm running a massive experiment. This is what my vision is. Help me help you. Like, and that's where the humility comes in. Is like, I just tell people, this is what I'm trying to do. I don't have it figured out. Where did we fail you? Where can we improve?
Do you find that unlocks the opportunity where they tell you?
Absolutely. And the fact is they actually end up using us. Is they go, okay, this is not just a web-based company that's coming and going. There's someone here who has a genuine passion and genuine desire to succeed. And as a result, those clients end up becoming one of our longer clients. And so I try to lead by showing that that it's better to have verbal customers who voice their concerns and to embrace it and to learn from it. Rather have a bunch of those than customers that are just using the platform. I don't hear any feedback from them. So I think from the leadership standpoint, from the cultural standpoint, I try. It's a cliche, but it's like you just lead by example, and I'm the first one to try to take those landmine customer inquiries and whatnot.
How big of a shift was this from having been a banker and a trader at a hedge fund to shifting to becoming an entrepreneur? How do you think about it from the perspective of, my guess is that people reach out to you all the time who are afraid to quit their job or take a leap and start a company because they're not an entrepreneur or not entrepreneurial. What advice do you typically give them about the transition?
My first question is I ask them, why do they want to do it? Because it's not easy, and the odds are stacked against you, and that if their why is not coming from a very strong place, I frankly try to discourage them. Because it's better for them to have a decent quality of life. And in the end, what's the whole purpose? It's to be with your families, be with your friends, enjoy life. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. And so unless you're driven by something that is it's personally very strongly passion, you have a lot of passion for it, then I will encourage and I will help and whatnot. But the why is the most important thing for me.
What were you most surprised about when you became an entrepreneur?
Sorry, it's. I would say the most thing.
And it could be something that's rewarding as well. Something that's
if
you weren't expecting.
No, it's the positives are you get to create. You're running this massive experiment, and every single day you're iterating and optimizing and figuring out ways how to improve the lives of families. And so in that regard, it's very, very, very rewarding. It's yeah.
Is the support from your team different because they know you were not an entrepreneur before? Have you made up for that by hiring people that have been at startups before? What's the makeup of the team that you've surrounded yourself with? Because we talk often about the importance, ironically enough, of having co-founders.
Yep.
And usually there's a yin yang to successful co-founders. How have you made up for that with your leadership team, and how you've surrounded yourself with the complementary stakeholders or partners?
The very first question I ask everyone in an interview is, have you had a personal family experience with caregiving? And every single person on my team, be it from all the engineers to people dealing directly with families on the phone to people helping us with PR, have to intimately understand what we're doing.
And if they don't?
They don't get hired. And so that's the culture that I am building, is that the people who are around the team have to personally understand, because what we deal with is not easy. I lose clients because they pass away. And those are the hardest conversations to have with your family, the families that you work with. Like, they're emotional on the phone. We send sympathy cards, flowers, and it's not like a cool tech app. Like, we're dealing with people's lives. And everyone who is on the CareLinx team has gone through that. And so that is one of the core requirements. If you have not had a personal experience with this, I'm sure that hopefully it won't change over time. But it's one of the key tenets for me, because you got to understand what families are going through for you to be able to relate.
Love that.
Do you find that you're able to build a stronger team that way? It really creates a more talented team because they're driven by that sort of common passion?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's I think that we have one client. He was an ALS client, and he was a very smart professor at Berkeley in biology. And he told me a month before he passed that CareLinx and our team, especially the person who worked with him on a day-to-day basis, Lisa, made the last year of his life possible. And the family invited us to the CareLinx team to his memorial at UC Berkeley.
Wow.
And here we are, a young tech entrepreneur startup, and we're here at this professor's memorial, and the family comes up thanking us for what we're doing. And that's when the team and on our conference room is clients that unfortunately have passed, but it reminds them this is what we do, and we're here to serve. And I always tell them that they are more like my team. Like they're CareLinx. They're the front lines. They're the ones who are talking to families and helping the families through these vulnerable states. And I try to empower them as much as I can for them to realize that it's them who are building these relationships with the families and helping them through this critical time.
So, what are you most excited about with this vision that's driven by such passion?
Yeah.
Where does this go over the coming years?
So things are exciting. So we have grown like 155% year over year. Next year, things line up. We're going to have another doubling or tripling of the company. We're right now operational in the top 50 metros. We were in Oprah in November and getting even a lot more recognition now. I truly believe that CareLinx is starting to become a really proper place where families can go to find quality care. And it took us a while to get a lot of key industry stakeholders, such as AARP, United Healthcare, to start trusting a young startup like us. But now we have strong relationships with these very large organizations that are actually helping and encouraging our growth. And I am very optimistic. I mean, I just came from a venture meeting, and I have no doubt in my mind that the CareLinx model is going to be the model of home care, in-home care service delivery in the future. I believe just as right now consumers want to travel, you go to Orbitz, Travelocity, Kayak, you're able to find exactly the type of tickets you want or travel that you want. Or I met my wife on Match.com. The exact same thing is going to be happening on home care service delivery, is we can find you a great compatible match at a lot lower price point. And your caregivers are bonded and insured, and I believe there's a huge category that's going to emerge in the online space for helping people find home care. And so
it's almost surprising that until 3 or 4 years ago you didn't have CareLinx.
Yes, yeah. When I first went to start building it, I built it for what my family wanted. And I would have to say, a learning lesson for you entrepreneurs is don't overbuild. I overbuilt, thinking that I had everything figured out. And that was probably one of a very humbling experience is stay lean, solve the most critical problems first, and keep iterating and adding features that you want. I mean, when I first launched, I had video conferencing capabilities and all that stuff that was never really utilized. In the end, families just wanted pictures of caregivers, reviews, and copies of their background checks, and so it was a lot of learning experience to kind of get to where we're at. But it's don't overbuild at the very beginning.
What, as you sit here today and you look, you just closed a round of financing, and have now some capital and resources to kind of continue executing. What's your biggest concern or challenge right now that that keeps you up at night, that you think about?
Team. So you will live and die by your team, and so as I look to 2015, what I've been charged with is we have a lot coming on in terms of partnerships, a lot coming on in terms of growth, and with that means I have to build out the team, and with that comes risks of culture being changed and control and making, and so my biggest concern is getting the right team members that share the same vision, that share the same passion, that can kind of take what I've gotten to this, how I got into this level, and then take it a lot further than I can do it on my own. So right now it's all about building out the right team around and taking it where I can't take it myself.
And for people listening who might be interested, what are the areas of the business that you need the most talent from or for?
So right now we're 3 fronts. One is we're looking at bringing on a head of product. And that is, we look at kind of the holistic of someone who can imagine what a family is going through from the point where they're sitting around the dinner table having a discussion about mom needs care, to all the way to finding CareLinx, to finding that right match, to then using all the tools and solutions to keep that family engaged about what's the care going to be provided in the home. This person is really going to be owning the entire user experience. And that's one of the most critical hires that I see. I view this person as a partner with me, and really kind of wrapping the experience from end to end is something I see as a pretty critical hire.
Fantastic.
So any last words of wisdom that you'd love to share with maybe an entrepreneur that's just getting started today? What would you like to tell them?
Don't be afraid to share your idea. Ideas are nothing. It's all about execution. And so if you have a good idea that you think that has potential, talk about it, get feedback.
Don't get trapped in your own head.
Don't get trapped in your own head. The reality is, even the idea you think is great, it's not going to be what you ultimately execute upon. So it's all about talking about it, refining the idea, testing your hypothesis by going to the key customers that you think might want to use your product, to think that if they would actually use it or not. And that is, do your research before you start building.
Excellent. Sherwin, it's been a pleasure being a partner of yours for the last 2.5 years. As you became part of the startup health community, I guess it was end of 2012.
Yeah.
Really great to have watched you evolve the business and grow the business, and the integrity and the values that you not only have, but you've kept constant is just incredible, and it's inspiring for other entrepreneurs. We hear it all the time. So congratulations on all the success. Really love sitting down with you today. I know there's probably another hour we could have a conversation about, probably a couple hours of conversations. We're going to have you back. But thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. Thanks for joining us for the latest episode of Startup Health Now. You can find this and all Startup Health episodes at startuphealth.com/now. Thank you for joining us. Sherwin, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.